Yes. And you're only telling me now, the day before? Well, I didn't know the exact date myself until recently, and Dr. Bryce told all of us not to tell a soul, but I know I can trust you. You're having your heart transplant tomorrow, Marlon repeated, stunned. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Did they find a human donor? Nope. So is this going to be from a pig? Marlon's voice was getting quieter and quieter. That's right. Silence. Marlon, stop fading out on me, I'd said testily. Aren't you scared? A little bit. Anxious, I shrugged, but it's simple. I have to choose between living and dying, and I choose to live. Besides, I know it's going to work. This time next week, I'll be fine and fighting fit. You're not going to change your mind? Of course not, I scoffed. What kind of question is that? But what if it doesn't work? Marlon asked unhappily. It will work, and even if it doesn't, at least I will have tried. And if I have to do it all over again, I'll do the same thing tomorrow. You would? In a hot New York second, I smiled. So wish me luck. Good luck. A strange silence echoed between us. I thought Marlon would find more to say, but I was mistaken. I wanted to say more, but though the words tumbled around in my head, they refused to form proper sentences to come out. Besides, I didn't want to get all mushy and gushy. Anyway, I'll talk to you after the operation. Can I come and see you after the operation? I don't think so. I don't think Dr. Bryce will allow it, to be honest, I admitted. But I'll tell you what, I'll ask him once I'm out of the intensive care. Do you promise? 'Cause I want to see you, Marlon persisted. I promise. I'll phone you after the operation and let you know what happened. Make sure you do. I'll be waiting, he replied. So I'll see you? Yeah. Bye. Bye, Marlon. I put the phone down. I had no idea why I'd done that. I wanted to speak to Marlon, but I ended up saying none of the things I wanted to say. But I felt strangely better. Someone outside my family and outside the clinic knew what was really happening to me. It made it all seem more real. Somewhere, Dr. Bryce, Dr. Elridge, this whole clinic, I could have dreamt the lot. Somehow, I felt as if I was in the middle of a dream. The whole idea was bizarre enough to be a dream. The only trouble was I didn't know whether or not I wanted to wake up yet. Well, Alex, I'm here. This is my last message before the operation. I'm at Dr. Bryce's clinic now. I've had a big breakfast, which is just as well because Dr. Bryce has just told me that I can't have anything else to eat until after the operation. At first I was a bit put out about that, but just between you and me, my appetite has vanished. To be honest, I don't think I could have eaten anything else. Come 8 o'clock tonight, I'll probably have changed my mind, but then again, I don't think so. I'm here, setting off on my journey into the unknown. I keep telling myself it's an adventure. Thousands of lucky people around the world have heart transplants and do very nicely, thank you. So why shouldn't I be one of them? And with all the anti-rejection drugs I'll be taking, it doesn't matter that my new heart was in a pig rather than a human first. My body won't know the difference, and that's what counts. I'll keep telling myself not to worry, I'll be fine. But I am scared. There, I've said it. I'm not just scared, I'm petrified. My stomach feels as if my breakfast is trying to smash its way out. Come on, Cameron, that's enough. Alex, one day you and I will watch this bit of my clips and we'll both smile at how silly I was to worry. I can't wait for that. I wish it was tomorrow. No, I wish it was the day after tomorrow. I've never wished for my time away before. I want Mum and Dad to hug me, but if I asked them, they'd know something was wrong. How can I tell them that the only thing wrong with me is that I'm so scared I want to cry? They think I was a real baby, and then they both start worrying about me, worrying, and we'd all be upset. So until after the operation, I'll smile at everyone who comes into the room, until my jaw aches, and if I feel like I'm about to blub, I'll go into the bathroom and lock the door. Grown-ups do that all the time. Maybe I'm more grown up than I ever thought. Oh God, I'm crying now. Wait a minute. I need to go to the bathroom. That's better. This tissue isn't this soggy because I've been blubbing into it. I did blow my nose into it too, honest. Alex, I hope you don't ever have to go through this, but you won't. I know you won't. You'll be born fighting fit and healthy enough for the both of us. What am I whittering on about? I'll soon be healthy and fit myself. We're going to have such fun. I can't wait. Chapter 13. Hurt. Someone was calling me from far, far away, a quiet, muffled voice. Cameron! Cameron! The voice grew louder and more urgent. It rushed at me like a Eurostar train. Cameron! Cameron! And then I was awake. It was dark. It took a few moments before I realised that my eyes were closed, but I was awake. Cameron, wake up! Now! Cameron! I was awake. And my chest hurt. Not badly, but it ached. I tried to take a deep breath, but the spear of pain shot through me from front to back. I instantly held my breath, waiting for the pain to ease, which it did. Slowly I opened my eyes. Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elridge were looking down at me. They wore masks and gloves, but their eyes were happy. More than happy. Their eyes shone with delight. That's when I knew I'd had the operation. I'd made it. I was still here. I smiled and the effort exhausted me. I tried to speak, but my tongue was stuck to the roof of my mouth, and my throat hurt. In fact, my throat was hurting quite badly. I hadn't expected that. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was as dry as Mars. Hello, Cameron. Dr. Bryce beamed at me. Even with the mask over his face, I could see that he was beaming. I raised my hand and put it over my throat. Dr. Bryce nodded. Try not to speak. You've had an airway down your throat, so your throat will be sore for a day or two. My heart's gone. Only then did I remember. Only then did I dare to think it. My old, rubbishy heart had gone, and in its place a brand new, strong pig's heart. And then it happened. It crept up on me so slowly that I didn't realise what was happening until I was in the middle of it. I was hurting. Well, not so much hurting as aching uncomfortably. My chest ached, my stomach ached, I wanted to cough, I had a headache, my throat ached, I felt sick. There was probably a millimetre long hair on the back of my hand somewhere that was comfortable, but that was about it. I tried to ask for help. I tried to tell the doctors how I felt. My tongue refused to move. The doctors continued to beam at me. We'll let you get rest now, said Dr. Bryce. And when you wake up again, you can see your mum and dad. I closed my eyes, and just like that, I was out. I was out of it. For the next day, I drifted in and out of myself. At least that's what it felt like. I don't remember too much about it. It just seemed that every time I opened my eyes, someone was smiling at me. Mum and Dad, the doctors, the nurses. I even dreamt that Trudy was smiling at me. And then, at last, I opened my eyes and I was awake. Really awake and aware. How are we feeling, Cameron? Dr. Elridge was instantly at my side, smiling. I coughed and instantly felt as if my chest was going to come apart. You will have a cough for a couple of days. That's the anaesthetic, I'm afraid. How's your throat? I swallowed hard. My mouth was no longer as dry as before. My throat wasn't as sore either, thank goodness. Better, I croaked. Was that really my voice? I sounded like a rusty frog. Would you like a little of ice to suck on? Yes, please. I was still croaking. The doctor used a teaspoon to fish a small chunk of ice out of the water jug on the table by my bed. She popped it into my grateful mouth. It was cool and wet and actually delicious. You were doing phenomenally well. Can you sit up? And if there's tests you can sit up, and if there's tests we run today favourable, maybe we'll have you walking in a couple of steps tomorrow. I stared at the doctor. She had to be kidding. I'd only just had a heart operation. What was going on? Were they short of beds or something? It's quite common practice, the doctor smiled Borden. She obviously read my expression. Not so long ago, it was standard practice to stay in bed for weeks after an operation. Now it's recognised that it's actually bad for you. We like to get our patients up and about as quickly as possible, even heart patients. Do you understand? I nodded, looking around. I took more of an interest in my surroundings. I wasn't in my room anymore. There were machines all around me, and I had an intravenous drip attached to each arm. Pads on my chest were hooked up to the heart monitor beside the bed. I had what looked like a crocodile clips attached to the ends of 2 fingers, and there was some kind of cuff around one of my ankles. I felt like Pinocchio before he had his strings cut. I looked up at the intravenous bags either side of me. I pointed to the left one. What's in that? I indicated with my head. It contains your anti-rejection drug, said Dr. Elridge. And that one? Dextrose and saline. Huh? Sugar and salt water to make sure you don't become dehydrated. Dr. Bryce entered the room. "How are we feeling today?" "Fine," I shrugged, and I was feeling fine, in a particularly detached kind of way. Somehow it was all a bit of an anticlimax. I spent so many weeks thinking about the operation and the days leading up to it that I really hadn't given much thought to what would happen afterwards, and now here I was with not much of a clue as to what should or would happen next. "We're amazed with your progress. You're doing extremely well," Dr. Bryce told me. "Does that mean I can go home soon?" I asked. There was no escaping the look that passed between Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elridge. "Is something wrong?" I asked immediately. "Nothing for you to worry about." Dr. Bryce's smile was as wide as it was false. I studied him carefully. "I thought you were going to be honest with me and not treat me like an idiot," I said, disappointed. Dr. Bryce shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry if that's how it came across. It's just that we've had some bad news today." "No, not about you or your operation," he added quickly when he saw the look on my face. "At least not directly." The doctor paused and took a deep breath and turned to Dr. Elridge. "Janice, could you go and get Cameron's parents, please?" "What's going on?" I struggled to sit further up in the bed. The bleep of the heart monitor was getting faster, as if I needed that to tell me I was getting anxious. Mum and Dad came into the room, their expressions grim. Mum was carrying a newspaper, and in that instant I knew what had happened. "I did ask all of you to keep this strictly confidential until I'd formally release the details to the media," Dr. Bryce said, to no one in particular. Which is how I knew that he knew it was me who'd let the cat out of the bag. "Marlon gave me his word that he wouldn't tell anyone, not even his parents." I couldn't deny that I'd been the one to blab, but I'd still tried to defend myself. "Well, this newspaper speaks for itself, doesn't it?" said Mum tersely. Dad shook his head. "I thought John and Erica were our friends." I thought of Marlon's mum and dad and all the times we'd been back and forth to each other's house. Our two families had even toured around the Lake District together. "I'm sure that rag made them an offer they couldn't refuse," Dr. Bryce said with disgust. "But they must have gone to the newspapers with a story to sell in the first place," Mum pointed out. Daily Press. World exclusive. Pig the boy with a pig's heart inside his body. I stretched my hand out for the newspaper. Mum gave it to me without another word. Just one look at the headline was enough to confirm my worst fears. "Cameron, you're to stay away from all of them, including Marlon. Do you hear me?" Mum fumed. This whole business will now be turned into a three-ringed circus," Dr. Bryce shook his head, "and each of us will be considered exhibits." "Maybe it's just a one-week wonder," Dad said hopefully. "I'm sure the press will find something else to interest them tomorrow." Both Dr. Bryce and Dr. Elridge stared at Dad in stunned amazement. Mum just looked at him as if he'd lost his marbles. Me? I had other things on my mind. Marlon was my best friend, and best friends didn't do that to each other. Friends didn't betray each other. Friends could keep secrets. I looked down at the newspaper again. The headline shrieked at me. "I can't understand it," I whispered. "Why did Marlon do it? Why?" And at that moment I felt more hurt inside than from anything the doctors had done to me over the last few days. Marlon was supposed to be my friend. In his shoes I would never have told anyone, never. Your friend's motives aren't the issue now. We all have to decide how to proceed from here. Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey, perhaps you could discuss this outside," Dr. Bryce suggested. "No, this concerns me, doesn't it? This is about me. Isn't it? Shouldn't I be part of the discussion?" Dad shook his head. "We don't want you to be any more upset than you already are." I couldn't be more upset, but don't worry, I'm not about to keel over. Mum nodded slowly, then smiled. "I don't think this is a very good idea," Dad began. Mum shrugged. "Mike, as Cameron said, this does involve him too, and if he feels up to it and Dr. Bryce doesn't have any objections, I don't see why not." Dr. Bryce took a good hard look at me and then visibly relaxed. "Cameron, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, our first priority has to be to protect you. If we don't do something, and fast, the press will be all over your family like cheap perfume." He sounded like he was quoting a line from one of those old black and white detective movies that Nan liked so much. It was so funnily peculiar to hear him say something like that I almost smiled. Almost. "So what do we do?" Mum asked Mum. "We spike their guns," Dr. Bryce replied without hesitation. "I'll call an immediate press conference to tell the press exactly what's happened. Do you all have somewhere else to stay other than your house?" Dad frowned. "Why?" "Because I think you should all lie low for a while, just until the hullabaloo has died down." "Lie low? We're not outlaws or criminals. Why should we lie low?" Mum snapped out.